I was reviewing the November performance for this bed brand that we've been working with, and these stats are absolutely insane. So as you can see on this dashboard here, their total sales for November was just over 3 million. And to give you some context, when we first took the account on, they were doing around 700k a month. And as you can see here on this comparison, last year they did just over 1 million, and now this year we've hit well over 3 million in total revenue for this brand. And whilst this growth is really impressive, the thing that really blows me away is how stable we've managed to keep the MER. As you can see, the blended ROAS here is 5.8 and it's only taken an 8.1% dip versus the previous year. So the net profit that this brand has seen off the back of this growth is higher than it has ever been before. Now, the reason that I'm showing you this is because I want to dive into exactly how we managed to take them from that 700k position to now hitting over 3 million a month. And the majority of this growth was done through Google Ads. So in this video, I'm going to be diving through exactly the strategy and the campaigns that we're running on Google Ads for them right now, which has taken them to this point. We do also run Facebook ads for this brand as well, but Google's done most of the heavy lifting. So I may cover Facebook in another video, but Google is where you're going to get all the value this time. Diving into the Google Ads account, the first thing that I wanted to pull up is the search campaign specifically, and we'll run through it kind of campaign at a time just so that I can explain why we've added things in. So obviously we have 4 search campaigns running here. Now AI Max is one that we've launched recently, so I'm not going to dive too much into that one. We are seeing really positive results, but I want to give it a bit more time before we start giving any recommendations. But the 3 campaigns that have driven our growth up until this point and even helped us to achieve 1.7 million in August was these 3 campaigns here. Now the first one is the brand campaign. I want to cover this one first because it's the least important one, but something that's very important for us to focus on and just get out of the way. Every other campaign in the ad account has brand completely excluded. We make sure that we're not overlapping with the brand term, we're not overspending on other campaigns. We make sure that it's isolated to this one campaign. Rather than having Performance Max bidding on your brand term and costing you an arm and a leg, we're making sure that this is the one campaign we run for brand. And as you can see in November, we spent around £20,000 on this particular campaign, and as a percentage of our total account spending, it's around 4.5–5%, so it's really, really small. Do I recommend not running brand at all? Of course not. This industry is particularly competitive. You get competitors bidding on your brand term. You need to make sure that you're keeping yourself at the top or you're going to lose out to the competition. So the next campaign is this generic beds one here. Now, this one we use to capture the broader category type search terms, and we use phrase match and broad match in order to do this. Diving into the actual search terms of this campaign, you can see that we're going after the broader categories rather than the niche search terms. And the idea of this is to drive more colder traffic and kind of kickstart that buyer journey right in the beginning when people are still in that awareness phase. When we look at the ROAS performance, if I scroll along here, you can see this is the lower performing one. And that's because, again, this is kickstarting the buyer journey. It's driving brand awareness, and a lot of the sales are being supported by this campaign and then being attributed to, say, PMax or shopping later on. A great benefit of this campaign as well is that we're able to test different search terms and we're able to find keywords that we really want to be bidding to the max for, which leads me on nicely to the third campaign here, which is our high performing keywords exact match campaign. I'd highly recommend anyone setting up a campaign like this because it's really, really simple. We either take the search terms which are performing best in our generic search campaign, or we can also take search terms from our PMax now that we have search term reporting on there and standard shopping as well. Any search term that we see performing well in those channels, we make sure to push in exact match here because those are very likely going to be top performing keywords both in search as well as the other placements. And as you can see, when we come over to the ROAS column, this one is achieving a higher ROAS than the generic campaign because we know these are winning keywords. Now, obviously, to control efficiency where we can, if we dive into the ad groups, you can see we've broken these out by category. So we have Ottoman beds, divan beds, king size beds. We've really broken it out nice and granular. Doing that is allowing us to make sure that the ads that we're running within that ad set are as relevant as possible. We're filling it with all the keywords that we're targeting, so they're keyword rich. This gives us a higher click-through rate. a higher expected click-through rate, should I say. We're getting a higher quality score because our website's optimized, and all in all, we're getting much cheaper bids for much higher positions than a lot of our competitors will be. So this structure works really, really nicely. No matter what industry that you're in, I would be breaking down your ad groups exactly like this, making sure those ads are tailored to the specific category. Beyond that, you can see that we're able to control the ROAS as well at an ad group level. So if a particular category is overspending, we can throttle it by increasing the target ROAS here. We like to keep them relatively in sync with one another so you don't get one taking all the spend. But as you can see, as we scroll through, there is a little bit of range where we like to make sure that certain ad groups aren't overspending or underspending. So after diving into the search campaigns, the next step is to look at how we handle shopping. Now we go with kind of a twin engine strategy here. We like to utilize Performance Max and also standard shopping. I'll dive into Performance Max first because that's what's driving the heavy lifting on the account right now. If I filter by Performance Max here, we do have a few different categories, but the main campaign that we're running for Google Ads is our catch-all campaign, because consolidated data always seems to perform better when it comes to these automated campaigns, both on Google Ads and on Facebook as well. You can see at the moment, this is driving around 30 to 40% of the ad spend on the ad account at the moment. In November, this campaign alone spent £154,000 to return a 4.33 ROAS. Now, to dive into this account a little bit further and how we structure it. Now, the catch-all is going to be the campaign which captures every single product that we have. We push all products down in here. Now, diving into the asset groups on this Performance Max campaign, one of the key features of it is that it is feed only, and we make sure that we exclude brand in the settings. The reason that we do this is because we need to make sure that this campaign is only going after new customers. PMax is absolutely horrible to run if you allow it to hit your brand term. It will lean so heavily into that. I cannot advise enough excluding brand from your Performance Max campaigns. Now, obviously with Performance Max as well, you can run a whole host of different audience signals. If you're a fresh account and you've only just started, I would definitely recommend giving it some input, maybe some in-market audiences and uploading a customer list and things like that. As you start to get bigger and you've been running Google Ads for a while, they become less and less relevant. And you can see that in the data here. The top performing asset group that we have is one that has absolutely no audience signal whatsoever. We're letting Google take the reins and find the people that it needs to, obviously excluding brand. And now this asset group alone has generated over 521,000 in revenue last month from 119,000 in ad spend. So by far and away the top performing asset group for us in this Performance Max campaign. We do run some other PMax campaigns as well, but they are much smaller and less important than the core catch. They are also running all assets. So we have ottoman beds here, mattresses, upholded ottoman beds. And these are kind of to just accompany our efforts on the account. They're kind of more of a bolt-on than the core strategy. We like to make sure that we're running them over sort of promotional periods as well. As you can see, we've run in Black Friday audiences in here, and the creative that we're running in there is Black Friday related as well. Getting that exposure across the whole Google network is very beneficial, especially during a sale period like Black Friday. So how do we run the standard shopping campaigns? Now, obviously, these are alongside the Performance Max to make sure that we're absolutely dominating the shopping placement. So the first campaign to get out the way is the brand shopping campaign. We do still have that. Now, you can't target your brand term through shopping campaigns, obviously, but you can cleverly filter it through by excluding brand in all the other campaigns. You can run scripts to do this, which I'd highly recommend. Automates the whole process. It's a lot easier. And then just make sure that you're bidding not too much on your brand terms in comparison to, say, a cold keyword where you're going to want to bid a lot more. Now, in terms of the core campaigns that are driving most of the ad spend and the revenue, you can see like divan beds and ottoman beds, we've spent 53k and 27k accordingly over the course of November, and that has returned over a 4 ROAS for those, which is really good for this account, especially when looking in platform. Now, a lot of people online will be running heroes, villains, zombies, and we run an iteration of that. We don't refer to them necessarily as hero products. We kind of just have our core standard selection of that particular product type, so we just call that standard in this instance. And then below that we have the villains, and then obviously finally the zombies. If you don't know about heroes, villains, zombies, the reason that we fragment it is your villain products, ones that spend a lot but don't perform. We want to pull those out and bid a bit less so that we're not wasting loads of money on those products. Maybe the case that they're getting a load of generic searches and they're showing up for those, for example, but yeah, better to pull them out and bid differently on them. Then we have zombies, which is where we have all the products which haven't spent very much, and we want to push some spend into them because who knows, there may be a few winners in there that haven't been given a chance. We don't have to allocate loads of budget to them, they're kind of a lower priority, but it is nice to try and allocate some spend into your zombie products as well. In this example, you can see that the standard product section is taking up all the spend. There's a load of different products in there. This ad group spent £40,000, has generated over a 4.3 ROAS in platform, which is some really solid performance for this client. And as you can see, this top ad group here has spent over 51,000, this standard divan beds, and returned over a 4.37 ROAS, which is really good for this brand here. Now, in terms of the heroes, villains, zombies, the key thing to do is not just do this list once and then never do it again. We make sure that we're updating this on a 30-day rolling. So every 30 days, we'll come in and we'll review the list. Now, in terms of the data that we look at, we like to look at the last 90-day period. So every 30 days, we're updating based on the last 90 days. Now, the reason that we do this every 30 days over a 90-day period is to avoid anomalies. We want to make sure that we're doing it often, but we want to make sure that the data we're looking at isn't allowing one product to perform badly for a month and then immediately get pulled out, even though it was a top performer the 2 months prior. So looking over a 90-day window is a much safer way to do that. Now, the actual strategy in which you can really scale up Google Ads campaigns is very much in both the products that you're pushing and making sure that your winning products is where most of the spend is going into, but also the target ROAS. And this is really, really important. Key thing, if you don't have good conversion tracking, this is all pointless. You need to make sure you've got that nailed to start with. Otherwise, no TROAS bidding is going to work very well for you. So nail your conversion tracking. Maybe use a third-party tool such as Tracklution if you're having issues with Shopify, but make sure that that is nailed because the data coming in is the most important thing when it comes to scaling with automated bidding. Once you've got that out of the way, target ROAS is very, very key. So it comes down to reviewing the target ROASes in comparison to the spend. If you see spend is dwindling slowly on a campaign, it may be the case that you need to drop that ROAS target initially to pump the spend back up. Similarly, when you're trying to scale, you often do need to drop your ROAS targets a little bit, especially when it comes to like your in-platform targets, just to try and get spend in there and drive performance. As the campaigns start to build more data, you typically find that the ROAS starts to pick back up again, and then you're able to increase your budget, increase your target ROAS, and now a year later, the same campaign can be sat with a higher TROAS and double the spend because you've just slowly built up that traction over time. And that's a big thing when it comes to Google Ads, it's momentum. Once you start making the right changes like we did on this account, it just goes up and up and up and up, especially when it comes to PMAX and shopping campaigns. They're particularly strong when it comes to scaling with this method. Now that gives you a good overview into what it is that we built out on this Google Ads account to take it from 700K to now over 3 million last month. And you can see here, if we go over to the Google Ads reporting, that in platform 2.6 million of that came from Google Ads. Obviously some of that would have come from brand, but a huge chunk is being driven by this exact Google Ads strategy. If you'd like to work with us and see if we can achieve growth like this for your brand, where we took this bed brand from 700K to over 3 million a month, book in a call with our team. We'll do a completely free growth audit of all of your ad platforms, whether it be Google, TikTok, Meta, email, the whole lot, even your creatives as well. And we'll let you know what's going to take you from where you are now to the next level and achieve growth just like this. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.